Time for a real adventure with Old Adventures games. Hi, nice to see you on this channel. Continuing my series about Polish games for Atari 8-bit, today I will present 4 Adventures games. They are undoubtedly intended for enthusiasts of this game's type, and perhaps due to their character, not everyone will like them. At the end of the video there will be a bonus for the persistent viewers, so please be sure to watch until the end. I also managed to find one of the presented items in the English edition. For foreign guests I can add that it will be probably hard to play without knowing Polish. Thus you can treat this episode as a quick overview, because it's definitely cool, at least I hope so, to see what titles were created in other countries in the era of 8-bit computers. Let's start with the game The Curse, prepared by LK Avalon. It was also released for Commodore 64, though both versions are not a perfect copy. As the plot of the game says, its hero has been looking for the source of the misfortune that plagues his country and causes its fall for 7 years. Now the player stands in the front of the mage seat and has a chance to defeat the sorcerer and free his native land from the curse. Of course, all with magic and spells. The game was also available in the English, so let's play this latter version for a while. Two keys are important in the game. K displays the spellbook, R the pocket contents. Two interesting facts. The game was created in the little-known language called Fort, not to be confused with Fortran. 2 more titles, which will be discussed in a moment, were also written in this language. And the second, for people who do not remember the times of 8-bit computers, I will only add that loading time of this game in the original version for the tape recorder was slightly less than half an hour. Please try to imagine you want to play and you have to wait so long. That's horrible. Additionally, the Atari software had a factory bug and a transmission error was occurring once in a dozen attempts when loading the program from the tape recorder. And then the story with game loading was beginning anew. Of course, that was the case for all programs, not just for this game. Nowadays, sometimes we complain when waiting few minutes for downloading a large file from internet. The situation with the floppy disk unit was much better. Here the user experience was amazing. However, the price of this device was about 50% higher than the price of the Atari 65XE computer and comparable to the price of the Atari 130XE, depending on the period and place of the purchase. It was a fortune in those days, especially that the purchase of the computer itself was a big challenge. Our hero from The Curse continues his adventures in the next title of the same company, Lords of Darkness. This game, just like before, was also released on the Commodore 64. As the description of the game prepared by the producer says, although the hero became a wise and just ruler, political changes forced him to leave his homeland and to immigrate. Our former ruler goes to a land where he meets only poor and gloomy people. So he decides to find the cause of the evil. This is the moment where your role begins. It is worth remembering about two keys. K, show the list of powers, R, the pocket contents. Let's make again here the first few steps to save this unfortunate land. Another title worth mentioning is AD 2044, also released by LK Avalon. Besides the Atari 8-bit, it was also released for MS-DOS and MS-Windows. The plot of the game is based on the Polish iconic comedy Sex Mission. The action takes place in the future in 2044. The Atari game was released in 1991, hence this date seemed to be quite distant at that time. As the producer writes, in the heyday of the communist system, a group of scientists made an experiment and hibernated one male who was expected to be the perfect sample of the society from the welfare system. Years passed, and after a nuclear war, life goes deep underground in the world. By accident, that hibernated male, the last survived representative of the male part of the society, or so it seems, was found. The main character, awakened from hibernation, finds himself in a world ruled by women. Worse still, the women plan a series of medical experiments on him, and then they intend to kill him. The producer decided on a very extensive advertising campaign for this title. It can be jokingly said that in those days ads for this game were everywhere. So, are you ready to save the Y chromosomes? One of the items that has undoubtedly become part of the history is the old text game Island. The goal of the game is to control the actions of a man who found himself on the title island hidden somewhere in the world. Interestingly, the authors had incredible problems to find a publisher, and as some claim, this program survived to our times only thanks to computer piracy, which was unfortunately common then in Poland. The game was developed in a very small team. The greater the respect that they managed to create such an interesting title. Most of it was written in Turbo Basic with assembly language parts. The user interface is interesting as it allows you to communicate with the computer with commands in a language that is close to natural. Of course, the commands are typed on the keyboard. The program recognizes many different combinations of the same command, and even if it cannot recognize it, it manages such a situation in a rather clever way, which adds a certain flavor to the game. For people who will decide to play it and will have a problem with finding the vault code, I would like to remind you the correct code: 691225. What do you think about this choice? Please be sure to write in the comments. Finally, let me remind you, before downloading any game, please make sure that you can do it legally and within the terms of the license. Some games have been released as collector's versions. Now it's time for the promised bonus. I have a little curiosity about the already mentioned fourth language, which has a slightly different philosophy than the currently popular Java, C# or C++. For example, it uses reverse Polish notation to write mathematical operations. So we will perform the action 2 plus 3 as 2, 3 plus. This should be understood in the following way. First, we put the number 2 on the stack, then 3. Then, on the two numbers being on the top of the stack, we perform the addition operation by taking them from the stack, and we put the sum on the top of the stack. The dot, on the other hand, means that the result will be displayed, and more precisely, the number being on the top of the stack will be displayed. Unusual, isn't it? I used to have the pleasure of programming in this language a bit. Who else? Stay healthy.